part of that is learned behavior. And the other part of that, this like, what is so-and-so going to perceive about me, is not being confident in ourselves as mothers. And I think like, that's a whole maybe different conversation around like women were and probably are, I think it is changing, culturally raised to make sure other people are okay. And that is also part of our biology. Like we come in coded to care. And then I think it's like amplified depending on the homes and places we were raised.
Hello and welcome back to the Raising Wild Hearts podcast. This is Ryan, your host. Before we jump into my interview with Mary Sanker today, if you love this podcast, if you are new here, if you love what you hear today, please consider voting for me, Raising Wild Hearts with Ryan Watkin, as the best personal development podcaster in the 2025 Women Podcasters Awards. Voting is open May 1st through the 31st in 2025. Thank you so much in advance for supporting the show. I appreciate you. You can find the link to vote in the show description below. It's got a green check by it. Now, my question for you is, have you ever wondered if motherhood will get any easier? Do you keep jumping from one solution to the next with no actual change in the way you're feeling? Listen, I get it. Motherhood is no joke. As soon as you get the hang of one stage, it is on to the next. Shortly after I had my second baby, at my 6-week postpartum checkup with my midwife, she asked me how I was doing. And I told her, well, everything's like mostly great, but I kind of feel like I'm drowning, like a lot. And she said, well, that's perfectly normal. And I can't believe that's perfectly normal. And the truth is, from what I've deduced, that we as mothers often accept a version of life that feels like we're pushing through and crushing the next goal and waiting for the day when it will all get a little bit easier. But I'm here to tell you, spoiler alert, life is going to life. It's never going to be smooth sailing all the time. And that's why I invited Mary Sanker, licensed therapist and holistic mom coach, back. And in my conversation with Mary today, you are going to learn how to make motherhood actually feel easier, the 4 stages of motherhood and which one you are in, ways to grow your capacity, and how to define what you actually want your motherhood journey to look and feel like. Get out a journal or a notepad because this one is juicy, and Mary asks one of the most profound questions I have heard in a really long time. All right, buckle up, buttercups, because we're going to jump into my interview with Mary Sanker. Mary Sanker, welcome back to the Raising Wild Hearts podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm thrilled that you're here. And this conversation is so timely because we have motherhood on the brain this past week and this week coming up. It is just around Mother's Day in the United States in 2025 as we're recording this, and also as this will air. And so we decided that this is a very mother-centric conversation, which it always was anyway. But I really want the people listening out there to stay with us, be with us, and pick up these golden nuggets for yourself, because bottom line, you are not alone. And my biggest question is, when is motherhood going to get easier? And this is a trick question because I know the answer to that. And it's like, spoiler alert, it's not. But we as mothers walk around with this idea that at some magical unicorn fairy stage, the skies will open and the angels will sing and everything will be easy. Like when my kid potty trains, when my kid is so-and-so age, when we get the developmental needs taken care of, when they go to this school, when I hire a nanny, blah, blah, blah-bitty, blah, blah. So what is your take on all of that, Mary? Why do we think that motherhood's going to get easier, and why does it actually not?
Yeah. I mean, I like to say motherhood doesn't get easier, it just gets different. I mean, my take on why we get like that is really a mindset of, you go through life, I don't know if you're traditionally schooled. I mean, even in homeschool or like private schools, there's like check marks that we all hit, right? We all go along this. I think I've heard some people call it like a ladder, or a relationship ladder, right? And so we go along this like ladder of life, and then we hit motherhood and we keep acting like it's a ladder. We keep acting like, I just have to get then. I just have to get then, right? And we get so offended when people are like, just you wait, just you wait. And, both sides of the equation are not helpful. But I actually realized, so I've been working with moms exclusively for 6 years. I've been a therapist for longer than that, a mental health therapist. But I actually started studying women when I was 12, which is like ironic, but I went through some pretty serious bullying when I was younger. And my way of dealing with that is like already showing signs of like, firstborn daughter. But I was like, I'm going to figure this out. I'm going to learn all I can know about women. And through all of this, I realized that motherhood is actually, there's a map. So it's not a ladder. It doesn't get easier, but we can use a map to design motherhood more closely related to what we need and how we want it to feel.
Yes, yes, yes. So laid out in front of us, I'm picturing this like Super Mario Brothers. I don't know why, but for those of you in my time who used to visit this like map of the lands, we can have a lay of the land of motherhood. And I think just knowing what to expect at each stage and phase and season is just comforting to the soul, to the mind, to the body. And so let's dive into the phases as you see them and what they entail.
Yeah. So ask questions along the way.
Yeah.
So I see 4 very distinct stages, if you will, of motherhood, stops along this map. And it's backed by neuroscience. And I track this also with traditional Chinese medicine. So like when I say like wise women traditions, it's like coming from women who have been doing this for eons. So in 0 to 7, we can see this is the first stage. That's what I call the devotional stage. And then 7 to 14 is the discovery stage. 14 to 21 is disclosure stage. And then demonstration stage is the last stage, which is 21 to 35, which is, obviously adult children. And these stages are all based on typical hormonal and brain development of the children. But at each stage, there's different emotional requirements for the mom to work with, right? I almost said overcome. It's not that. Like you're not broken. But what is required of you physically, mentally, emotionally, and on a soul level is different in these 7-year increments.
Yeah. Okay. So I first find it fascinating that we're listing the phases of motherhood by the child's age, which totally makes sense. And then my next thing that I am becoming aware of for myself is that I'm in 2 stages at once. And I think many of us have that, right? And also another thing that's like, whoa, is like 21 to 35. I mean, 35 is like full on adult. Like you're off the car insurance and the whatever by that time, probably for a long time, even by then. And so I'm like, whoa. So the place I want to go from here is I see 0 to 7 being this physically demanding, very present, like needing to be physically present stage. What are the other characteristics of the devotional stage other than like needing to actually be there for your child and at their beck and call, basically?
Yeah. So, I mean, devotional name was chosen for just that. I think like this is the stage. The teenage stage is also interesting, but in the devotional stage, I mean, you are physically present, you are emotionally present, you are soulfully present. I mean, you gave your body over, right? Even no matter how your birth unfolded, no matter how your feeding journey unfolded, there's so much of you. And mentally, your brain has shrunk. Your brain shrank in pregnancy to be able to accommodate having a child. And that doesn't grow back until the child is 3, like fully regained, right? And if you're having multiple children within that 3 your increment, like your brain is just shrinking.
So you're saying that your brain actually physically changes size and it's smaller.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
and they
brain
found,
fog is actually a thing. It's not brain
Yeah.
fog. It's your brain is shrinking.
Yeah, like pregnancy brain is actually like it's 3% smaller than the average human brain.
Wow.
But we need that to give ourselves to somebody else, right? Because even if you're having children on the earlier side, which maybe you're in your early 20s, you still have 20 years of just caring for yourself, right? So something drastic has to happen for us to want to take care of another human.
Yeah.
Because we are like that's why motherhood is such an interesting thing to study, right? Because humans, we care for each other, we love each other, but we always look out for ourselves.
Yeah. Fascinating. I personally love the word devotion. Like that word does something to my insides and it makes it like warm and tingly and inspired in there. Like it just sounds so beautiful. I just love words. And I'm curious because I perceive that I had a hard time and still do have a hard time a little bit getting out of the devotion stage and allowing ourselves and our kids to progress to the next stage.
Yeah. And like that, thank you for saying that, because that is one of the connections of like, oh my gosh, I have to bring the motherhood map forward is exactly that. So I have a not so secret goal. I probably said it the last time we chatted. Like I want to be the first generation of embodied women. I don't want to be a curmudgeon grandmother. I don't want my clients to be a curmudgeon grandmother. I don't want that for anybody, because there are a lot of curmudgeon grandmothers and I get that. And if we stay in the devotional stage and we don't fight the mom guilt, because I think that's what happens in the discovery stage when I call that the sweet spot of parenting. So you are still very much needed. You're obviously not going to like let your kids run the whole show, but there is more space, right? If we create it and we take it and we don't feel guilty about it, there's more space for you to rediscover who you are. What are you outside of the mom box? So that when you get to the disclosure stage, when you're back in like emotionally and mentally and soulfully needed with your kid who's going through an existential crisis, which they're supposed to do at that age, then you can actually fully show up for them as an embodied adult, right? You can actually literally hold their emotions like you did when you were a toddler. And I think that we feel bad, maybe it's guilt. It's like, what, I'm doing something wrong by giving my child more space, but they need that and you need that.
Mm-hmm. So I'm hearing you say, I think, that each stage builds upon the next. So is it true that we learn skills in the devotional phase, which we then bring to discovery, which we then bring to disclosure, which then culminates in this demonstration era?
Correct, which is why I included the demonstration era, actually, because I agree, 21 to 35, like, get out of my house, kid, right? And because so much of my work ends up being me in therapy and in coaching, working on the relationship of the mother, person A, the mother I'm working with, and their mother, right? Or their stepmother, or their insert woman who had a major impact. I realized that
Oprah. It's Oprah for me. I'm just kidding. I'm going to go parenting with Oprah.
I love that. The thing is, though, if you had a mother who stayed in the devotional stage, even at the teenage years, that's going to cause a lot of friction.
Yeah.
Right? Now you're the mom and your mom's still acting like, right? You're the
baby.
Child, the baby.
They're babying you then. I picture this like mother.
Uh-huh.
You know?
Yeah, and I think secretly none of us want to be that. And those of us who have boys like don't want to be that stereotypical mother-in-law.
Uh-huh.
And this is how you're not that stereotypical mother-in-law. Like, one, if you're worried about it, you're not going to be it anyway. But two, like, there's actually things we can learn about ourselves, right, that help us grow our children mentally and emotionally.
Yeah, Totally. Okay. So sweet spot, and then we'll move on to disclosure. We're in the sweet spot. We've got 1 or 2 kids in this area. We've got a little more freedom. They're still kids. They're still like thinking that you're great. They're still wanting to spend time with you. Essentially, you're still very close in proximity with them, but there's a little bit of space. What's something we as mamas can do in the discovery stage to, I don't know if I want to say like make it easier, but let's say like to really like nail that phase. Like if we're really like winning this discovery phase, like what are some characteristics or ways that we're showing up for ourselves and our kids?
Yeah, I have to have a little chuckle of like trying to win any stage of motherhood.
Totally. I know. Yes.
No, but I get it. I'm always like, how do I optimize this? You
How
can't.
do I win? How do I win? We want to know how to win, Mary.
We played too many video games when we were younger.
Totally. Yes. Clearly.
That being said, it's, so this is the time really. So another just like, this goes to the discovery stage, but it's an important fact. Postpartum depression is a thing, right? The time period though that moms actually report the most depression across motherhood in general is when their kid is 5.
Wow.
And I think this is important because like if you've wiped bums for 5 years, right? And like if you're the only one who's done nighttime routine for 5 years and you're the default parent to the fault, it makes sense to me why moms are like, hey, I'm feeling depressed. And I say that because they're like the skills of setting boundaries, rediscovering yourself, right? So like I don't think we're going back. There is no bounce back, right?
Yeah.
We're recreating something new. And so
our brains are new, our bodies are new, our self-image is new, everything is new.
Yeah.
Everything.
Yeah. And if you allow yourself actually in that devotional period to grieve that while you're pouring into somebody new, your child, then when you get to discovery, you can start to like come up from air and be like, what do I even believe anymore? What are my values? What boundaries do I need to set? Which is like super like pop culture these days. But what that means is like, what are you willing to do for the life that you want? What are you willing not to do for the life that you want? Right? Like, and then after that, it's bringing in more of that like heart and soul of like, how do we want this to feel? Because if we can get all those pieces, then I can tell you, you're going to tell yourself, but like the next indicated action will show itself. Maybe not immediately, but like it comes.
Yeah. You said, what are you willing to do for the life that you want? Can we just like send up a flare, light off some fireworks, put a pin in it, and just like bask in that? What are you willing to do for the life that you want? That is the most powerful question I've definitely heard all day, possibly all week, maybe even all month. Like that is so profound. I want everybody to open up their journal or their notes, or not if you're driving, but later do it and ask yourself, what are you willing to do for the life that you want? Because these are the types of questions that change lives. If we can get really clear of the life that we're saying that we want, of the life, this pure potentiality of the choices that we have in this life, what do we really, really want? Not what our moms had, not what our grandmas had, not what Susie down the street has, not what anyone else has. What do you want actually, right?
Yeah. And I think like it's powerful. It's a powerful question in many ways because it highlights to us, it does highlight like our current values, but I think it actually goes deeper than that. And it makes us see the things that we've just been okay with that we're not actually okay with.
Yeah. Oh, this is good. This is deep. You say on your website, here's the thing. Motherhood hasn't changed you. It's amplified your patterns and habits that already exist. burn. It's not that your kids need to get into school full time, your partner needs to work less, or you need to make more money so you can hire a nanny or a housekeeper. It's that you need to change your approach. Mary, I think you are actually speaking directly to me. Not necessarily like present day me right here, but you're talking to me but like between like 2 and 4, 6 years ago. I thought if I just made some more money, then blank. If my kids were just this, then blank. If, then I would get to be so happy and fulfilled. And I've realized the very, very hard way, like do not recommend, through trudging through the mud, that it's not anything outside of me that actually needs to change. Why do we think when our external circumstances change that everything will be fine?
Yeah. Because that would be easy, right? Like if I can find you know what? It would be easy. It really would. But we unfortunately or fortunately live in a world of duality. We just do, right? And I don't know where people land in like the spiritual world. There's like people like all the rage, and I was like 5D talks. Like, I don't know. Well, what I do know is
we're here now. We're in the 3D. We're needing to wipe butts. We're needing to go to the carpool. Like, okay, we're still here.
Right. We're still here.
Yeah.
And I'm a big both and person, right?
Yeah,
like
me
two
too.
things get to be true at the same time. But why I'm talking about duality is because to actually honor the wiping of the butts and also that life can be good, we have to let go of that certainty, right? Because if I choose a camp, if I choose to put my ship and I say that like when my kids are teenagers, it's going to be so much better, which like we all know is a laugh. It'll be so much better. Or like when I lose 20 pounds or when I start having sex with my husband again, right? Like it's like, this is going to be good. Then you feel like all I have to do is achieve this thing. And it's certainty, but life isn't certain. Like that doesn't actually, it again, the reason why I say like that amplifies the patterns you already have is that you've likely always been searching for something to tell you that you're okay or you're enough.
Ding, ding, ding. Yep.
And that's just like, fortunately, we're the ones who give ourselves that permission that we're enough.
Totally. Yeah. My pattern before I became a mom was everything external. Maybe that's why I've mentioned it 3 times in this podcast. I thought the recognition or the acknowledgement or the actually feeling seen by somebody else, like having them say what I want them to say, having the, spreadsheet reflect, a bigger number, like whatever it was, like that, because that's you mentioned like how we grow up, like that's how we grow up. We stack up the gold stars, we stack up the money, we stack up the A+, we talk about GPA. We're basically all just like competing through life. And so when we get to motherhood, I love how you call it a map and not a ladder. And we just need to redefine. We need to redefine. So let's move on to the disclosure stage, 14 to 21. I'm not here yet. I'm prepping. I'm learning through my devotional and discovery phases right now what I need to really, how I need to be, how I need to show up for this disclosure phase, again, for myself and for my kids. So let's talk about some of the characteristics of that phase.
Yeah. So the disclosure stage, it is based on the idea, the proof of your child is going to go through some hormonal changes, right? They're going to go through puberty. And the thing about puberty is it has for a long time, I'm including like my own age demographic in this and longer.
How old are you?
30, how old are 38.
Okay. I'm 42.
38. Yeah. So like it's an evolutionary mismatch because what a teenager is seeking is risk. They're seeking independence. But what are they being told? They're being told like, you don't know it all. Literally direct quotes from my dad. You don't know it all. And like, you're not old enough yet. And you don't know what you don't know. And wow, that might be true. I did not know what I did not know it all. I still don't know it all. Right now, I know that I don't know it all. Everything in your body, we're fighting our own biology here. Our body is telling us, right? Our body's telling us to procreate. Our body's telling us to anyway, do the risk. And so if we don't give our children the risk, or if we don't sit with them in that fire, they go further down this existential crisis of like, what is life, right? Some cultures even say that teenagers die a death, right? That some cultures actually believe depression and even suicidality is like normal at a teenage age because they are emotionally dying to their younger selves. If we haven't taken the space in the discovery stage, you're going to be burnt out. You're going to be curmudgeon. You're going to be tired. Well, you still might be tired, but like a soul tired, right? And what your kid needs is like somebody to be real with them, like raw and real. But we can't be raw and real if we haven't looked at ourselves.
Hey, it's me, Ryan. So something I do every single day to invest in my growth, besides connecting with the humans on this podcast, obviously, is reading. Reading is where it all started for me. I was 5 when I became obsessed with books, writing them, reading them, collecting them. I love how I can get inspired with new ideas and stories and ways to grow. That's why I ask all my guests what they're reading. And finally, you can check out all the book recommendations from the experts and authors on the show in one place at raisingwildhearts.com/books. There are some life changers in there like You Are the Placebo, and a few hidden gems like Sacred Motherhood and Living, Loving, and Learning. So if you want to get your hands on your next great read, check out the full list by heading to raisingwildhearts.com/books. Okay, back to the show. Totally. We're going to be showing up in a way that just is a mismatch for what our kids need. And God, that's so true. We could solve so many teenage issues, I think, with having this information and everybody really taking a hard look at how they're showing up. Your soul is tired. Like, if that's not a like spot on statement for all the moms and dads, but moms of teenagers out there, I don't know what is. I mean, I think that we don't have rites of passage anymore. Right. We aren't allowing women to come, not that they're turning women when they're getting their cycle, but it is symbolic of that. It's symbolic of that. So to not have these, really meaningful rituals and like with all the women and the elders pouring love into them and blessing them and protecting them. And then for the boys, I always joke, like sending them out into the woods with a pocket knife and a blanket. Like, good luck, buddy. You're going to come back and be stronger, my poor son. He's in for something like that, I think. But so one of the, my husband has an older gentleman who's gone through these phases, and I forget how older his kids are, but he said to my husband the other day, he said, no punishment for truth. And that's something that we're practicing already, like no punishment for truth, because oftentimes with our kids and oh my God, even with everybody, we're punishing verbally, we're punishing emotionally, we're withholding love when someone actually speaks the truth of what they did, the truth of what they feel, any truth, right? We are really sometimes inadvertently, but we're punishing them. And so I love this concept of they are taking risk. We are, hopefully they've gained enough wherewithal to, I don't know, take the appropriate risks that aren't too risky. Listen to me. But
But it's cultivating what you and your husband would feel is an appropriate risk. Like it's actually cultivating risk, right? Versus like just go find the risk. No. I'm going to find risk with you and for you.
Okay.
So that my nervous system, right? You call it your soul, it's your nervous system, it's everything. I can handle this risk and I can actually not fault you for truth because I can actually see you in it.
Okay. So like I'm trying to think of examples off the top of my head because what I'm trying to avoid, quite honestly, is like drugs, alcohol, sex, which I'm sure every other parent is trying to avoid as well. The steps that we're taking for that is like I don't drink anyway, but we don't drink in front of our kids. We don't have drugs in our house. We talk about with our 8 and 10-year-old the risks of alcohol, the risks of, they see it as like smoking, but that will expand as they get older. So I'm trying to think real risks in my head in the disclosure phase. And I'm thinking like, I don't know, is this crazy? Skydiving, like wilderness adventures, whitewater rafting, roller coasters. What are some other examples that you could think of?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's even, I do think like wilderness trips are really great for men, boys. I mean, maybe it's even like taking them. I think this is why things like BMX are so popular, right? Like some extreme sport. You don't have to necessarily put them in it, but to show them other types of risks, right? Like experience other types of cultures. I know a woman I hold in high regard. For her kids, she already told me that they're going to go on a special trip and they're going to go places with cultures they've never seen, right? And maybe even like she was even talking about like going to like a homeless camp with them, like showing them extreme what might happen, extreme examples of what might happen in life.
Yeah. Totally. I love that. So we can cultivate our own risk. We can cultivate kind of in this container in the disclosure phase. And I would venture to say that in the discovery phase, like where I very much am right now for 2 of my children, I am defining what that might look like. I have, let's see, how many more? I have 4 years left till less than 4 years till the disclosure phase. And so that is very much like the groundwork right now being laid for that. So let's go to the demonstration phase. I'm so curious about this phase because you're like, okay, kid, get out of my basement, like we talked about. I'm curious like how we show up for ourselves and our kids in the demonstration phase.
Yeah. So this stage, it's like, this is hopefully less physically demanding, right? Less, I don't know. I feel like motherhood's always going to be emotionally demanding. So, but less mentally demanding for sure. And on the soul level, you're always going to be connected, right? Even science has proven that, at 18 years post-birth, they can still, like the mother and the child still share blood because of pregnancy. Yeah. So, but having done all the work along the motherhood map, the hope is that you don't have an empty nest syndrome here. You don't have, right? Like people are having kids and myself, and I'm including myself in this, like people are having kids older. So, maybe it's not a midlife crisis, but there's no like crisis in your 50s, right? Because you don't have to do that because you've done the work all the way around the line. It's not like you turn to your partner and be like, who are you? No, because you've created this space. So in the demonstration, why I called it that is because if anything, if we followed along the map, the hope is to maintain an adult relationship now with your child. And sometimes maybe if they do have kids between 21 and 35, then maybe you're showing in and you're literally demonstrating, right? Or it's just that like you're demonstrating how to be an adult. We're just being adults alongside each other. Our community is intact.
Beautiful. I picture this as like the summit. I know that I said there is no summit to parenting, but I picture this as the summit because we've done those laboring years, those really emotionally, spiritually, physically intense years of the devotional discovery and disclosure stages. And now our kids are independent. They are really going off to do the things they want to do, to try the things they want to try. And I love how you painted the picture of us like walking alongside of them. So it becomes, less of us like under them or behind them. It's like we're walking now alongside of these human beings.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And the human brain, I actually believe it's between 21 and 24 is when it's finally fully developed. And so that's why it doesn't start till 21, right? Mm-hmm. Because there is still, it's totally different, but there is still parenting in our 20s.
Yep. Do you know what I see in our culture, or I perceive this, and this is just from my experience and from observation? I see that when parents get into the discovery stage, which is about 7 to 14, that they start to go, okay, my job here is done. I'm good. And they bypass all the other stages. I have a sense kind of that this is what happened for me. This is what kind of was my parents' MO, and that's okay. They did the best they could with the information they had, for sure. Mm-hmm. And I feel like many of us, and I'm just saying us, as a culture, we are okay, done, check. What's next?
Yeah. And I also see the other extreme. And the other extreme is you all of a sudden book every single day with 12 sports or camps, right? And so all of a sudden you don't have the time to now you're just the chauffeur and you're very upset about it, right? And it's this well, this is a hard thing, but that was a choice. Yeah. And are you making that choice because you don't know who you are anymore? And it's again, it's easier. It is easier to just do that, even though that's a really hard lifestyle. It's emotionally easier to not have to face what am I now and what is parenting now?
Holy shit. That is so true. We have scheduled, not we in this house, we haven't scheduled our kids for shit because I don't want to drive around and I am in the discovery phase and I am discovering who I am and what lights me up. And they are exploring plenty at the school we've chosen for them. And so that's great. But we schedule our kids. We over schedule our kids in this culture. I mean, from competitive sports to traveling sports. And I do think there is some sort of, there are some sort of values that we can learn by really sticking with a skill, honing our physical capability at that age. Yes. And how much is too much? And also, I mean, I'm going to be super honest here. I have said to my husband before, on a Saturday morning at 10:30, I've been this is why people do sports on the weekends, because we've had 2 breakfasts. We've got a fort in the living room. We've got confetti all over the dining room. We've got the dog barking. The people are still hungry even after 2 breakfasts. And we're, it's a little intense, it's a little intense. And so I was I see why people go the other route.
Mm-hmm. Totally. And it's this thing of, it's this thing of which one do you want your motherhood to feel like? Right. And there's probably a happy medium. Because I think there are some moms who thrive. They want to be a sports mom. They that's their jam. Awesome. But I guess for me, it's is it an intentional choice? Because, and I've been there too. Man, I wish we had something to do right now. And then I play that out. And for us, where my kids are, that's just not what I want. It might change in the future, but it's how do I continue to make the intentional choice? And that's not always the prescribed choice.
Mm-hmm. So how do we discern what's right for us versus what's right for our kids and marry those two for some sort of a compromise in life, because in our house, we have 5 different humans and 5 different, very different personalities. So how do we land on that middle place that's good for everybody in the fam?
Yeah. I think like this is the mother is always going to be the heartbeat of the home. And so for me, your sanity is the most important. That doesn't mean we don't have time periods where we will choose to like have less sanity to provide something for our children. But what doesn't mean is like you have to know where you're, like I say like this, like where you're pointing your ship. What are your values? You have to know, like an exercise I give people, and I totally recommend doing this, is even for like a week, observing yourself and have whether it's a circle, some of my moms like to use a sphere around them, and they give everybody in their family a color. And so you check in like once a day, twice a day, and like in your sphere, in your circle, whose color is the biggest, right?
Wow.
Whose color is the biggest? But then did you even remember to give yourself a color? Number 1. Number 2, if you gave yourself a color, good job. But now are you in your own sphere?
Whoa.
Right? Because kids at all ages, especially if we continue to have a secure attachment, they read energy better than anything.
Yep.
So like they know if you're saying no, but you really mean yes, and they know to push it. And like they know if you're saying yes, but you really mean no, they're like skeptical of it. And so if the mom can land on what her values are, right? I think like pop culture might say like, if you become the matriarch, and like, yes, yes, that is it. But on a simpler way, it's like, what are you going to stand for? Right? Like, what is the culture of your home? What's the atmosphere of your home? Does that give you necessarily a like easy 1-2 step of like, how do I balance 5 people's emotions and choices? No. But you'll be able to feel in if you're hitting that, like, that value, that feeling, that atmosphere that you're trying to create for your children, right? Because we can look back on our own childhoods and it wasn't necessarily what I did. It wasn't necessarily the trips. It wasn't necessarily the sports. Those were great. They were great add-ons. But what was important as a child was how I felt in my home.
Yeah. Wow. I like to think of our home as this like sacred bubble, and it's messy and it's loud and there's a lot of colors going on at all hours of the day, and still it's ours. And I love that sense of, do you feel safe in your home? Do you feel like you can be who you are and do what you want to do in your home? Can you go read a book if you want to read a book? Can you go splash paint all over a canvas if you want to go splash paint? Can you, speak loudly and passionately? And these are just some examples like from my own life and that I notice that my kids want to do. Can you jump on the couch and sing and dance? Because in many houses, I know many kids of many parents of my kids and like their friends, like they don't have certain freedoms. And I get that maybe you are a mother who says there is no screaming in my house. Like, listen, I get that at certain times there is no screaming in my house either. But these are the types of things we get to define for ourselves. Love it.
Yeah. And it's like almost, when I hear that, I'm like, sure, you don't, my kids don't jump on the couch. However, I give them spaces and places within the home or our land to do that, right? So it's like, there is always an option C.
Yep.
But when we are so stuck on getting things right, or we're worried if we're enough, or if we're like if we're worried, just in worrying about everything, we can't see option C.
Wow. The example that comes to mind is that we live in a neighborhood where the houses are kind of close together, and my kids have been swimming every day after school. The pool's like finally warm enough. and they are very loud back there, and they're playing, and it's oftentimes like very happy loud. And sometimes it's like, you took my toy loud. And so there's these varying degrees of loudness happening in our backyard. And my husband and I catch ourselves going like, just not even saying it to the kids because we don't go there yet, but thinking like, oh God, our neighbors must just hate us. I mean, we're not telling our kids to be quiet because quite frankly, they are outside. It is daylight hours. Like they need to voice those things and work out that conflict and all the things. And that's what we do to ourselves. We go, what's so-and-so going to think? What is this person perceiving of me? What does this mean about me as a parent that my child is acting in this way? Mm-hmm. Right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, part of that is our brain's desire to be part of a community, right? We do have that. And part of that is learned behavior. And the other part of that, this like, what is so-and-so going to perceive about me, is not being confident in ourselves as mothers. And I think like, that's a whole maybe different conversation around like women were and probably are, I think it is changing, culturally raised to make sure other people are okay. And that is also part of our biology. Like we come in coded to care. And then I think it's like amplified depending on the homes and places we were raised.
Yeah. From where you're standing today, what is capacity and what are a couple ways we can grow and cultivate our capacity as mothers?
Yeah, I mean, so let's start with what I think capacity is not. I think capacity is not actually doing more, right? I think it's, when I think about capacity and how it can benefit you in motherhood, it's cultivating an atmosphere. Like that's what comes to mind. Like your home is your atmosphere. You are the heartbeat of it. And my high achieving mamas are not going to like this answer, but
lay it on us.
But it's this like, because what your brain wants is this like sweeping life declaration. But what our nervous system needs and what our homes need is small incremental changes. And so it's like one of the things I say is like, you always have 5 minutes. It's never on your timeline. And so if you can like even start to look for those 5 minutes to breathe, to dance in your kitchen, to like think your own thoughts, force yourself to think your own thoughts, you start to be able to hold more without actually anything, like you're not burning down your whole life, right? You might still have your job. You might still have your same marriage, right? Because I hear that one a lot too. Like, it has to be my marriage. No, it doesn't have to be your marriage. Your kids get to be still wild, right? But it's this idea that if you can start cultivating more space of you in your day, 30 days from now, 90 days from now, everything's going to look a lot different. If we can get over that it feels too simple.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's this article from Motherly, and it was published originally, I believe, last year. So May 20th in 2024. And the title is, "What Do Moms Want for Mother's Day? ? To be completely left alone is the answer. That's the title of the article. And it says Motherly's 2023 State of Motherhood survey shows 58% of moms report they are primarily responsible for the duties of running a household and caring for children this year, which is up 2% from 2022. Honestly, I think 58% is kind of low. I was like, I don't know. But then it goes on to say the majority of moms, 62%, still reporting getting less than an hour to themselves each day. So if that's the reality, if life and the reality of the circumstances, like you said, it's not on our timeline, is that we get less than an hour to ourselves each day, how are we using that time?
Yeah. And I think it's even catching yourself when you do have time, asking yourself, do I want to be doing this?
Yep.
Right? Like, is this how I want to be spending my time? And not to shame yourself and not to make yourself good or bad. It's like generally just an open question. And like, because mothers don't have time and we have to create the time, if we shame ourselves or we get mad that it's so hard, like that becomes another barrier, right? And it is hard. Like it is actually hard. You're not broken.
Yeah. Yeah. So well said. You are such a light, such a gift. The work that you do with mothers, for mothers, guiding them back to themselves is truly world changing. And I appreciate you so much, Mary. How can we find you and follow along with the work you're doing?
Yeah. Thank you for saying that. Just like taking a moment to receive that. So the only place I hang out actually is on Instagram. It's at Mary Sanker. I do have 2 different group programs. One is a 3-month, mostly self-led program that I give you the skills that in 30 days that you can start to actually use these like 5-minute increments to like create sanity in your life. And then my bigger program is a 6-month program where basically we take the motherhood map, we take where you are, and I get in your life and I actually help you create the systems to sanity. Systems to sanity. Because even though I'm like, you don't need a camp. I don't think that like you need a camp of thought, but I think that you do need an individualized plan for you and your family. And that's what I help them create in there.
Amazing. And go follow Mary M. Sanker, right, on Instagram. Yeah. And a post that I loved from today, just because she made the brunch reservation and reminded everyone to text grandma doesn't mean she felt celebrated. It might mean she's afraid to be forgotten unless she's useful. And you go on to do these examples. And then you said you don't have to make it perfect to make it real. This Mother's Day, honor you, because being a mother doesn't mean becoming a ghost. Whoa. This is not about sacrificing ourselves, because the more we do that, that builds up over and over and over the years. So your content is absolutely beautiful. Thank you so much. I'm going to ask you the 3 questions that I ask everybody at the end of the interview, which you already know because you've been here and done that, but we'll do it again.
I've forgotten.
Perfect. Okay, good. What's bringing you joy today?
Today, the weather in my garden.
Beautiful. What, if anything, are you reading right now?
Oh, I'm reading so much. I just read a book called Identity Marketing. And then I'm also reading this book called Man, King, and something else.
Warrior King.
Yeah.
Right? I know exactly what you're talking about.
I just started out like literally 2 pages in.
How is it? Oh, 2 pages in. Okay, you don't know yet.
I don't know yet.
Okay. It's like these different archetypes of the masculine energy, right? Is that the gist? Cool. And then the last question I have for you is, who or what has taught you the most?
Currently, at this time, my children. They have taught me the most.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful. Thank you so much again for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Hey, it's Ryan. What an epic conversation. I hope that you have 1 or 2 takeaways that you will keep close to your heart this week as you go out into the world and love yourself, your people, and your communities well. Also, I have a favor to ask that will take you less than 3 minutes. I would be so grateful if you would head over to womenpodcasters.com/awards and vote for me in the Best Personal Development Podcasters category. That's right. I've been nominated for Best Personal Development Podcaster in the 2025 Women Podcasters Awards. You can head to womenpodcasters.com/awards and scroll down to where it says vote, fill out the Google form, and cast your vote for me, Ryan Watkin, host of the Raising Wild Hearts podcast. Thank you so much for your time and for supporting the show, and I will be here next week to dive into another amazing interview with you. Thank you so much for voting, and I will talk to you soon.